what is fun about emotional steadiness? It is that you unlock not only your own infinite higher human conscious potential, but as a self leader, you get to create clarity for yourself and others under pressure. And so you're also unlocking that which is called very good, secure connections and relationships. And if you're new, you don't know anything about me. What I can tell you is that I'm a 5D mystic, I'm a mentor, content creator, podcast host, and on PayHip, our lovely journal prompts and mindset practices for the mindfully living, we get to have an addition. It's the ones for those who are aware we're not our activated states. We break emotional reactivity because I almost reacted and then I reminded myself sovereignty is a choice, but also emotions are signals. So very, very intense emotions aren't truths. They're signs. I saw a sign and I opened up my mind. I saw a sign. So benefits for sticking around. I have stories for you. I have fun with charges, meaning all the emotional stuff. And I like to quote people and bring in this and that. So you're going to be here without linearity, please. It's a lot of circling and having fun. And the colors might change a bit because, it's actually, I think, the shirt with the colors of the lights. So just be patient. Okay, first off, do you know your mind? Do you know your body? And do you know yourself and your heart, of course? But as you do, then you're going to have fun with every single bit of yourself and others. And that's why we don't co-regulate to that which is dysregulated nervous systems. What we do is differentiate and link. And that's because I own the 4 facets of my own mind. I also own the entirety of the self, and so integration and wholeness. And I learned from a bunch of attachment trauma, neuroscience, brain science, attachment trauma, all the smart human beings. So you can always ask me for names and stuff. Okay, so here's where I'm going to quote Ariel Schwartz first, PhD. Then I'm going to quote a couple of Sadhguru quotes and more. So sit down, relax, and have fun. Then I'm going to start with stories. Oh, and this is where if you're looking for like 1, 2, 3s of how to. Okay, so number 1, very strong emotions aren't truths. You know how to recognize when you're feeling angry or sad. And I'm going to give you an example of a guy I make fun of who's a cynic. Oh, I'd say, well, it is right, that way feels right. And he's all feels. So when we have charges, that's very clear. And sometimes it's actually not clear. So I'm going to use me as an example because when you're doing personal growth, it's actual behavioral mastering. So you're having fun with your personality patterns and your temperament, and your body is securely attached. That's why you own the mind. So your mind does not suffer because you don't ruminate. You think. Some people say thinking involves rumination. I'm trying to say you reflect, you observe, you are the owner. So you observe, witness, narrate. You don't give yourself crap because you're grounded in connectedness and presence, and that means you switch to curiosity with yourself. So you use ventral energy because you use compassion with yourself. So when you're thinking with compassion, doesn't matter if I use the word thinking or reflecting, a person who knows how to do mindful mindset right, which is why journaling, yes, there's a right way to do it, and it works for those who are self-regulating in their ventral energy. So you can map out your nervous system and you know how to be happy all the time because that's your eustress and your ventral energy. Because I actually have all the other emotions too. They just don't get, no, they can get, but my intense emotions aren't truths. They're subjective experiences that are coming from the 4 facets of the mind, my information processing brain here, my subjective experience, which involves my sensations, also affects, behaviors, CBAM, and meaning, so Peter Levine, and also images. So, your childhood comes with you, and your teenagers and all that great stuff, but you don't need to do the work. There's no shadow work, or you're basically growing up and having good times with people. The true self is defined as a congruence between what I'm feeling on the inside and what I show on the outside. Ariel Schwartz, PhD. So consciousness, subjective experience, self-organization, information processing. These are the 4 facets of the mind that Dr. Daniel Siegel talks about. And he says you can sift them, sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, with your mind-sight lens. And I just call it mindfulness and mind-sight lens. And so here it is, personal growth and spiritual growth. So when you are a self-leader, that's why you create clarity for yourself. And when your strong emotions come up, you do understand that I almost reacted and then I reminded myself, I'm not my activated state. I want to respond, but I also remind myself I can fuck it up. I can skip a beat. I might actually have some form of projection or some shit. Okay, it's not shit though. So we have fun growing ourselves, and that's because we have fun exploring that which are intense emotions and then regulating them. This is the part that unfortunately 3D, 4D never find out. They could if one day they choose to self-regulate instead of doing activity. I want them now. Okay, so that was thank you, Ariel, for the true self. That's a science's explanation. Here's where our lovely Sadhguru talks about integrity. It's not a set of values or ethics. It is coherence between how you are, how you think, and how you act. And now you're going to say, well, what does that have to do with self? Well, because if you're integrated and whole, you have integrity. And it isn't about values or ethics, although, yes, we do want to continue to ensure that our society continues to move with that which is respect, yes. But those words, see, this is what happens with the left brainers. I'm not that. So I'm going to just give you an example of why I don't do any of this shit and I can fuck it up and use words interchangeably. I'm not disregarding our entire society. I'm looking at it right now and seeing we have a bunch of emotionally mature people who know how to bring forth integrity, and they don't bother with the whole if I'm going to use it this way or that way. They actually understand we won't ever really let go of building a society that will move forward. We have faith in humanity because we have faith in ourselves. Self-leaders have faith in humanity because we're love-based, which is why we create more leaders. Now, when we spot the fear-based leaders, they're not creating leaders, they're creating followers, which actually is, well, I'm going to pause myself again because good intentions are not enough. It takes the right action performed with the right consciousness to produce the necessary results. Thank you, Sadhguru, again. And here's my definition of integrity. What other people say about you doesn't matter, but you should not be ashamed of what you have done. Now, I have no shame, but I do understand subjective experience and subjective reality. And I can have shame and can have had shame in the past and stuff, so let's not make yes forever or never the whole black and white thinking. Okay, so when people are comfortable in their bodies, they're comfortable to speak up, they're comfortable with epistemically curious, disciplined, diligent, all, and we have trust. We're not confused of integrity, of values, of ethics, and above all, we're not confused of who true leadership is and how they bring forth humanity coming together, not setting us apart. So divisiveness in ways that involve a very obtuse and very rigid and very uninteresting, epistemically lazy, all of it. I'm just trying to point out where 3D, 4D is at. So they will continue to use polarized narratives. They're actually going to continue telling you they know everything versus no, you can't know physically everything. And really we have a handful of objective truths, but above all, the individuals who enjoy epistemic curiosity, discipline, diligence, and basically use the mind in the absence of suffering because they're emotionally intelligent, continue to do research and academia and everything within our knowledge of sphere because that's how we advance as a species. So there's no controversial for those who are having fun in life. I feel life first, then I will think it. Okay, so my very strong emotions are not truths. Me feeling happy about life, it's because my mind doesn't suffer, my body doesn't suffer. I don't suffer to be Maria. And in fact, our lovely 5D collective doesn't struggle with ourselves, our purpose, our life, our world, people and behaviors, or anything that happens outside of us because we self-regulate in ventral vagal state. And we know our strong emotions are signals, but that as long as there's no asteroid about to hit us, that we are going to live another day, hopefully, and continue to move forward as a species. So we're not taking off our game because being yourself under pressure, under activation is not something that you don't collapse and you don't disengage from talking about very interesting conversations for those who are unready. But you also don't impose human evolution, self-growth, spiritual growth on people. You don't impose on someone to go get self-regulated. and to do EMDR, child parts work, somatics, and then instead of doing instead of doing that, to say, hey, but mindset practices will help you to get over that. If you realize that it's like there you really had the choice. Like the minute you were like, it's okay, it's fair and square. Okay, now that you did it, how about you grow from whatever the thing that took place is? Okay, so here's where we're gonna start with some stories. Personal growth, again, behavioral mastering, personality patterns, temperament, all of it, and you're having fun with the depths of you, so you're regulating intensity. This is why the flow state is amazing. The bright sides of neuroplasticity, in the neuroscientist community. Did I forget anything? I don't think so. So here's friendship is a sheltering tree, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and then James Russell Lowell. One thorn of experience is worth a whole wilderness of warning. Okay, so he's trying to say, the James quote, at least my interpretation of it, that one thorn of experience, so if you go through something like I did, that it would be something that will teach you more than just throwing you into the wild all of a sudden, into the forest, okay? So he's trying to say experience is what creates wisdom. I'm going to let you know that when self-leaders decide to create that which is clarity or wisdom in any kind of situation, I find it hard to believe the first is like, that doesn't mean that clarity or wisdom will be welcome. Okay, so people who we love may choose to stay emotionally immature as we are going to accept defeat. I accepted it a long time ago, but it's not evil, it's not demonic, and it's not something that I need to look down upon. While I will tease, a Zen master calls it laundry when he cries, I'm trying to say, let him who would move the world first move himself. Thank you, Socrates. Then Aristotle, as he thought, a friend you love is considered your second self, someone whose pain feels like your own. When you are differentiating and linking, thanks Dr. Daniel Siegel for the explanation, you own yourself, you own your sphere, this body right here, and I don't co-regulate with you because I don't dysregulate. So I will be able to pick up on 1, 2, 10, 100, all people around me. Besides Dr. Daniel Siegel, Tara Brach talks about it's important. Just anyone who has any basic of how we're made, we're a species. So I wasn't surprised when I heard we pick up on each other's nervous system. From the mystic perspective, I already knew we were doing it, but the light workers, the advanced kind, the ones that I'm going to talk to, is we would have figured out some shit's off with your message because you're missing more than just one beat. And the reason is because the light workers that I got to learn from, which I'm very grateful they were out there because I got a lot of different pieces of information from my astral travel, as an Akashic record reader, past lives, future lives, Reiki master, all of the great stuff that comes with being a mystic and spiritual one. I knew they were off because they kept saying that we, the light workers, were special and anchoring in the energy. And thanks to us, the earth was going to keep moving forward and that the split and a lot of things. And I'm like, yeah, something's really off because shit's going down and I'm not noticing people expanding. Actually, what I'm noticing is a number of people not expanding at all. Okay, so what that means is what I noticed are the spiritual bypassers and the somatic bypassers who continue with their strong emotions. Their strong emotions have them think that their words are truths, and so they start to vilify AI, they vilify that group or that group, and so you see Peter Pan, the Lost Boys, and Wendy following each other around. And so this is why when Neil deGrasse, I'm going to side note, shares you can know enough about something to think you're right, but not enough to know you're wrong. Great, Neil. He also shares how there's green sources, yellow and red. And that's a really great video if you want to check it out. I don't remember the title. I think I'm a yellow, even though some might think I'm a red, but I'm not a green. The green ones are the ones that I learn about attachment trauma from. And as Neil also points out, the less connected you are to what is objectively true, the less likely you are able to make decisions that will benefit your life, the life of your family, even civilization itself. Okay, so I'm going to go back to when you are a self-leader and you have clarity and you're engaging with those who lack self-leadership. They don't know how to be themselves under pressure. They will take that activated state, their very strong emotions, and they will not only endorse their projection, they will also validate their impulsive story, their impulsive mannerisms. They will identify with all of it, and they will continue to suffer the mind and the body and disregard the solution, which is good therapy. And a person says, I did it, I'm gonna live now, could go use some more therapy at this point, because apparently you didn't understand what the body of yours does when you choose to self-regulate and use your mind for that which it was made for, to contemplate effectively, which you can do with the inner growth mindset practices. Check out PayHip if you want to add to yours, and journal prompts. They're there. But there's also like lovely Tara Brock has like a whole bunch of mindfulness resources. There's lovely Therapy Nutshell Lady who has a bunch of other resources on YouTube. There was one more that had come to my mind and now it slipped it. But my point is, people who are using their mind, it's because you're using two sides of the brain, and then you understand we're not our activated state. So I don't need to project anything. And impulsivity makes me think of when I was a teenager and I wasn't impulsive even as a teenager. The BFFF story, you heard it. So if you didn't hear it, I'm going to tell it to you again. My lovely teenage boyfriend, the first love of my life, which these grown-ups were like, you'll never love again, you'll never love da 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 da. And I've seen grown-ass women and men talk about their first love in ways that I'm like, wow, interesting. I mean, love is a consistency. Where are you, Sadhguru? There is no giving, taking, or making love. You can only be love. People see this, say, oh, you don't know love. You know, this is what love is, Maria. It's excruciating. You can't live. You're going to die without them if you love. I'm like, that's actually unhealthy. It's called potential limerence plus very, very unsecure. And I get it, though. We all need, the sciences people inform me, we all need one securely attached figure. But once you're your own securely attached 1-year-old, you're actually broken free from it. And I can thank my entire herd, all of my herd, including, yes, twin flames, particularly 2 of them out of the 3. And that's only because the one in the middle, it was very clear to me that, yeah, so let him who would move the world first move himself. Socrates, thank you. And so with that, I'm going to say that anyone can have gone through what I went through too. I won't think that they won't make it, or that I went through some bullshit, you know, like, oh my God, someone won't make it. There's people who talk about their experience as if like they went through something that no one else could physically handle. And I'm like, every human being actually has the same capacity to handle. Yeah, their window of tolerance might be a little bit different, but with the right guide, a good mindful therapist, oh, they'll get there. Sensory motor, EMDR, all of it, child's part, they'll get there. So talking to me on a screen, this is a bypasser, telling me that there's no good group of people or helping others, and that what you went through is the biggest thing that I have very strong feelings too. Yes, my twin flames, they definitely... Oh, thank you, God. He kept me away from all of them. Oh, the middle one, he's the most stubborn, meaning like this one, if this one ever decides to this, like, I know him so well that it's hilarious. I think I'm like, hopefully they're keeping him on a tight leash, as they probably will. So those are ignorant people, by the way, that I'm not trying to be mean, but 3D is not in any way, shape, or form interesting. Science is true whether or not you believe in it. Thank you, Neil deGrasse. So someone saying they sold their soul to the devil, no. Sorry, I'm a mystic. And the whole devil story, I get it. The ones who keep wanting to use it, I understand. I'm just like, science proves God's perfection. Since God's perfect, apparently there's an inconsistency with those who don't want to understand how humans are made. And there's grounded in reality people. Thank you, Sam Harris. Our cherishable beliefs can be falsifiable. So hopefully I've presented to you well enough how logical. I know scientists, yes, they're explaining how we're made. Somebody who's making it seem like they went through chronic victimhood, chronic specialhood, chronic whatever you want. Hey, Peter Pan, are you done acting like you're a badass? Because you could be a badass. Like, emotional intelligence, it's sexy. So is mental intelligence with mental mastery, which is what I'm talking about right now. Epistemically curious, we have trust. We know Neil is amazing, and so are the rest of the green. I'm the yellow because, again, I'm a woo-woo. So with all that being said, I'm connected to objective truths and reality, and my mystic stories are amazing. They're not just stories. So when people make fun of them, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave that one alone. But when people want to say that they're spiritual energy vampires and bad spiritual, and or that consciousness wants to experience a bunch of shit, I'm like, okay, hold on, let's pause. I'm gonna pause myself. Okay, so when you have people who don't regulate intensity, they don't regulate their depth, they're not masters of their own emotions, and therefore there's not signs for me to grow my personality patterns from and my temperament, and to continue me growing, mastering my behavior. Okay, so personality patterns, a collection of values of how emotions, thought, and behavior happens across states and stages of life. I'm going to use some stories. So my BFFF, I waited 7 days before I went to talk to her. The teenage boyfriend cheated on me 3 times. I forgot to mention that part. The 4th time he didn't admit it. But the 3rd time when I went to her, I waited because I was really angry. And I said, I need to wait. Otherwise, I'm going to say something I don't want to say. And that is where those who hear this story say, oh my gosh, you did this thing. And like, why would you? And I'm like, emotionally mature people actually don't have an issue with having people that decide to do things that... also we were kids, immature. That's normal in my personal subjective opinion. And, it's funny because some people will hear stories of mid-20 and 30-year-olds and say, were they 13? And to them you say, no, I know. I know you'd think they were 13. No, they were grown. But, let's remember, not everybody has the same foundation. So when you try to explain to people how anyone can achieve mental mastery and emotional mastery so that they can have the clarity to work with themselves under pressure and to work with others, and they find it hard to believe, never first use life, you leave it alone, because that's the point that I was trying to make. You don't impose self-regulation and self-empowerment on people who don't want it. But we have an explanation, so we don't need to demonize and dehumanize, and that's why whether it's a spiritual bypasser or a somatic bypasser, I know they're still suffering life because they still haven't practiced enough differentiating and then linking, whether it's to 1, 2, 3, 10, they're oversold, the beyond, so they haven't yet expanded their window of tolerance to want to welcome, and it's not a race, it is basically every human being's body can access their potential. Okay, so emotional steadiness enables you to activate that which is something that your human body has. My body has it, your body has it. So when you do have friends, friendship is a sheltering tree, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and when you do know that one thorn of experience is worth a whole wilderness of warning, James Russell Lowell, but that doesn't mean that we will grow from it. You remind yourself, for me, God gave us free will. Then I also remind myself of how the scientists inform me, like Stephen Porges, that a person who didn't get loved basically will be freaking out when they're presented with the neutrality, the love, the stability, because their body is actively seeking that which it learned in its first years, the first year of life actually. So the right mode of the brain gets affected. So here's the blueprint, the skeleton. People who don't understand how the embodied brain works, they hear self-help, they think everybody can do it, or it's bullshit. You can't help yourself if you're not your whole self. So it's only once you have fun with who you are, that you're playing with your personality patterns, your temperament, and you're also playing with that which is the differences that are out there. And as long as we're still physically alive, our human species continues to advance, because there's plenty of emotionally intelligent, mentally mastering people out there, although we all will, with our lovely anticipation, and they call it machine, our brain, plus our pattern detector, our mind, will spot all together, chime in with me, hey, science is true, flat earthers. Neil deGrasse proved that the earth is round again, but there are only a handful of objective truths, so, tomato, yeah, you want to have some more fun? So this is the part. Check out PayHip for our new journal prompts and the mindset practice for breaking emotional reactivity, emotional awareness without emotional captivity. It's really fun to have emotions, and they're not our sovereign rulers. And so in a number of situations, I've found myself with people. Aristotle thought that a friend you love is considered your second self, someone whose pain feels like your own. Okay, so we'll conclude with one story that I don't share enough. The boyfriend, I love him still. We're friends. In fact, with his partner, she gave me a beautiful gift when there was a bunch of cosmic, karmic balancing and more taking place. That's all the lovely twin flames. Yes, they definitely bring in a bunch of shit for you to get to handle. But I can tell you that every time that I learn something, I just say, hey, God, thanks for making me so lucky. I love all my brothers and sisters, and I know not all want to get out of their dysregulated state because it's really scary, and we still have those fear-based leaders who they get to follow. But I know that we will all continue as we have to move our species forward. And that's because my faith in humanity hasn't broken. He's perfect. He makes no mistakes. And the creator energy is love. And we're all made of love. So that's why the empowered divine feminine with their own empowered divine masculine, I do the mind, the embodied brain is the masculine, but the top brain, the body stuff is the feminine. But you have to be divine. No, you have to be empowered, meaning restored and embodied. You have to, ventral energy. You know how to navigate your ventral energy, making that clear. So you're a star baby. I'm a star of myself, okay? And you're eternal. So your child parts, they don't get the shadow. They don't do the, I'm going to allow to endorse my behavior, okay? Okay. So there's not a good team and a bad team. There's some people stay in the desert, and we're the bridge. Remember the second one? Yeah, I remember. I was being called every night. I had so many dreams until they reached out. And that's where I prayed, and they prayed. And when you pray and your prayers get answered, but here's where choice points. So I knew I was a choice point because we're all choice points. So I'm a choice point for anybody who wants to continue to grow themselves, because I'm going to be different from you and you're going to be different from me. And I have my choice point, which is, as Jesus taught me, to forgive. Blessed are those who believe without seeing. I don't play God because I'm not God. I respect the families and the ancestors. What else is it? Forgive for they do not know. And so they're Jesus, Holy Spirit, God, plus all the archangels and all the ascended masters and all of those beings that come and knock at my door, and definitely will have some on that. But the point is, future beings, everything, you just bring it all in. And every single bit of what I know is that the ones who won't choose emotional steadiness and emotional mastery, it's because they actually had their faith broken. And that's unfortunate, because they choose Boca Raton instead of a good childhood trauma survivor, healing therapist named Patrick Tiahan. So when someone wants to play groupies out there versus getting themselves emotionally stable, and they want to talk to me about integrity or whatever, I allow them to share whatever it is they are wanting to. Being a leader does not mean dominating the situation. It means empowering people to do what they would not have imagined possible. But they don't notice that they don't want love, because that's exactly the part of where I find it hard to believe the first years of life. So when you do know what health is, and you do know how emotional health involves emotional maturity, because the nervous system, and it involves the brain though, okay? I'm just trying to spell out to you all, loved ones are all of those who you will have entered into an interaction. I have plenty of people I love, and ones who don't want to get to their human potential, to their higher potential, to their best self. I'm not going to make it into my mission to point it out, and I definitely won't be canceling or excluding them, and I don't need to cut cords. That's why Archangel Michael keeps coming back, because he's still out there for us, but we don't need to cut cords. I forget what his lovely energy is, but there's definitely a lot that he has to share since he keeps coming. You're going to have to wait, Archangel Michael. It's not today. Sorry. So anyways, the point that I'm trying to make is, when I talk to God, it's always about stuff that's taking place with the science. I can explain to you why some people will choose to not do what the choo-choo train did, which is make it over the hump, and then to move into their actual beautiful functional child adult, which regulates intensity. Okay, so my BFFF, I waited 7 days. That's how I'm not an impulsive, reactive person. But when I was an 8-year-old, I did have this moment of impulsivity. I remember it. So this is that maturing. You're able to emotionally mature when you're a master of those emotions and you name them and you talk about them. But with people who will choose to stay identified, so they will endorse projection, impulsivity, affective realism, distortions, self-abandonment, all their core wounds, chronic victimhood, and or the narrative with the emotional charge, you're not going to get them to notice their dysregulated identity loops. And with that, you're not meant to, so the whole you have free will and I have free will from the God or the spiritual perspective, you've heard of the fact that you don't mess with people's soul's journey or whatever, right? Okay, from the sciences, it's basically people will consciously choose to not do the therapy that they need, and they will also consciously continue to behave the way they will. But luckily, when you have healthy, self-empowered boundaries, you don't actually have to do anything, because that's the part. It's not going to be an issue for you when you're a person who knows how to share a ventral vagal state no or yes, and you also won't feel guilty about it. And so with friends and family and loved ones and people you know, you respect their choices, because that's the part. They're respecting the laws. Personal behavior, personal growth doesn't have to be for everyone, nor spiritual growth. As for different belief systems and ways of bringing that forth, that always just makes me laugh, because I'm like, science is not a belief. So basically, it's either you're emotionally mature, aware, and having a good time as you continue to master yourself, because then you're also having good with others. And when you spot the immature ones, there's a lovely nutshell therapy lady video. She has a model, this therapist colleague of hers. It's like, oh yeah, I know how to handle that. I got a bunch of people I handle all the time. You spot their 5 hands, and then you know that they're going to consider you a pain in the ass, and you're going to consider them a pain in the ass. I love to love, and my baby, he loves to laugh, and da-da. So what I'm going to try and close out with is when you're out in the desert and you're trying to let go of a hand because you're ready to go and continue living life and expand, because the desert, this card actually means when someone's headed to a dead end, but you know you're a bridge. That's why it's twin flames, soulmates. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're of our mystic spiritual community, and for the sciences too, Dr. Daniel Siegel is the best of the best that I can tell you. When he shares, you could be the only secure attachment figure for someone. It means a safe haven, secure base. You could be their only lifeline to their real self. And that is actually something very important. And when you are always in communication, in my case with God, I ain't God, I ain't it, you know, we're all actually made of the same cloth and frequency. And so here's where I want to see if I can find, being a leader does not mean dominating the situation. It means empowering people to do what they would have not imagined possible. Thank you, Sadhguru. So we all, as self-leaders, bring clarity to ourselves and others under pressure. We accept that they will make their choices, respecting the law. We do our best to bring forth a better system. And because there's humans who are being raised right now, right, a third attunement, repair, and rupture, they're going to grow strong. Their self will be strong because their nervous system will be ventral energy. And those who don't want it, they don't have to have it. It breaks my heart every day. But it doesn't break my heart in a way where I co-regulate with their suffering. No, I have accepted defeat. That means I have accepted that some people don't want it. And thank you, Stephen Porges, for teaching me about biologically rude people and how to forgive. I already said yes to Jesus. I promised to love all people again with Sadhguru. I really, didn't need the motivational kick, but it helps me to know in my heart how I won't demonize and dehumanize and call people evil with this word that was existing when we didn't have science that explains what an embodied brain is. And it's not technical, it's actively an explanation. The first 3 years of your life, you're living out, your body keeps on running a model, or your brain, Lisa Feldman Barrett, keeps running a model of your body. And so the brain anticipator organ machine with your mind, that is the pattern, is still that's why it says 0-8-year-old non-metabolized trauma playing on a wheelhouse. Pat Ogden gives me the data point. So once you spot the patterns, I spot the patterns because my mind works just as well as anybody else. My brain anticipates no danger except for one. Please, asteroid, dark matter, dark energy, don't hit. Please, scientists, keep doing what you do best. One who is stuck in the realm of right and wrong, liking and disliking, will never know the texture of love. Thank you, Sadhguru. So people who stay emotionally immature don't notice their own emotional charges come with a story, and they don't break free from them because they don't break emotional reactivity, number one, but it's also because they don't notice that they are not their activated state, and it's because they're validating their very strong emotions, and that means they're saying their effective realism is true and it's a fact, versus, oh wait, effective realism, making it feel like it's a fact. What's it is right, it feels right. We're all feels. Trauma is not a story of something that happened in the past. Trauma is the imprint that all experiences leave on your soul and your body as your sensations. Bessel van der Kolk. And I want to also share a note. Our species was not made to have a mind that suffers, because our species, like the bears and the bees, is an optimized cellular complex system. So when you hear from the amazing neuroscientists how everyone can have the bright sides of neuroplasticity but also the flow state, I'm not like, wow, I'm the special one. Everyone can have bliss and flow in their body. To get there requires their desire to continue getting curious when that's why, as Sadhguru points out, when you go home, they're going to poke you. This was after one of the inner engineering courses that I took with him. But the part about also, you don't shame people out of shame. You don't shame people to evolve. You actually have no power over a person who disregards that they're living out that which is their own childhood stuff when they don't believe in the journey of healing completely. And then once they are some healed, don't believe and continue with mindset practices and journaling the correct way. And I say correct because, again, that's where personal growth, it's behavioral mastering, emotional mastering. So I'm here for the ones who want to inspire human potential. We don't motivate you. We motivate ourselves, and we're all motivated with the different temperament, our 3 subcortical areas. We have agency, bonding, and certainty. And agency is anger, bonding is sadness, and fear is certainty. Obviously, please don't write down, there's no boxes, but once you have the PDP framework, the IPNB framework, the polyvagal lens, and then we got a bunch more of attachment trauma education lens, it's very clear the ones who feel good, I feel good, na. I knew that I would. They continue to wield their mind because they're wielding their nervous system in their ventral energy. So there's no fear unhealthy. There's the same grounded in reality, and okay, let's put our 2 hands and 2 feet together and support humanity to move into the future. The ones who don't like the equanimous energy, it's because they're holding on to their charges, and choosing convenience over everything is actually where the groupies are at. And they will choose the path of least resistance because they don't regulate intensity, but they say, nah, you're bullshit, Maria. Yeah, your neutrality, you know what? That's all, like, I don't even know. Are you even there? So they don't actually recognize the layer of depth that they could have. And that's the part. And so with that, we always will unconditionally love with flaws and imperfections. I say always. When I'm 46, I won't live forever as Maria. I'll be someone else eventually. But the part about how we get to continue evolving, expanding, and looking to the present with, yes, we have a lot of people that are still very afraid. Some follow fear-based leadership because their minds don't actually have the capacity to notice themselves and how their very strong emotions and their story is leading them down a path of saying, oh, if you go to scientists and go to doctors, you're all evil from the devil because this book says. So you're saying we need to live in the cave with the rock, and okay, I got it. Wow, that's like, seriously, you actually think that God would make a mistake? Meaning when we're evolving as we're thinking. So people who bring the spiritual stories, I'm like, okay, you're obviously disengaged from the fact that we are an embodied brain, or maybe you don't know enough about the science to understand how we evolve. And so I'm going to pause that. But the belief thing, okay, so beliefs and stories and things that you will think of as knowledge. To me, knowledge is what is science. That's the data. Other stuff, we bring it together. Yes, our society has created values, ethics. We continue to bring those forth, morals. So that's the part. Nothing can get broken. It will only be improved. In fact, it will be improved by those who are and have epistemic trust, epistemic discipline, curiosity. They're intelligent, and they are sustaining their own ventral energy, differentiating and linking and respecting differences. Because that's why we do know subjective experience matters. So when someone wants to say that a person's soul will have been broken, no, the soul actively, the quote again, it gets tainted, the body gets tainted with sensations. The one cloth, the one energy, it's a specific one, but right now I'm going to lose you if I keep going down this path, because this is where I feel like I'm like, okay, now you're getting philosophical. Point is, when you're anchored in ventral energy and you're able to analyze something without the strong emotions being facts, you can say, oh, here's my emotions, here's my thoughts, here's what I'm dealing with. Oh, look, I can talk about it. And when you have somebody who you're interacting with who doesn't want to buy into, hey, when we have unresolved stuff from our childhood, our nervous system, and you continue to explain it, We're not going to do anything with that. So my point is accepting that we have emotionally immature people who will continue to find a place they call home, like the flat earthers. We can continue to do what we've always been doing. Our ancestors have done it. And at the end of the day, while I would love to say that we can all get along, I know that we can all get along thanks to the ones who are coming together with respect to these differences and being the mediators because they're not reactive. That's why embodied self-leadership and true leadership create more leaders, because a third attunement, repairing rupture, not talking down to people and talking to them like they're stupid. So while I'll make fun of the flat earthers, if I ever meet one, I'll respect that they have their own subjective opinion, and others will say that's why we have them, and I'll say no, we have them because they're insecure. And obviously epistemic trust was broken, because if it hadn't been, they wouldn't be like little rebel teenagers doing whatever they're doing. They don't know who Neil deGrasse is. No, they do know. They think he's wrong. Like, wow. So it's clear when you are a mind and a body that is integrated and whole, where it's not stupidity to the point of let's dehumanize them or actually think they're stupid. Because see, that's what arrogance looks like. So I'm stupid. You can be. We are all stupid. We're all assholes. We are all the same. And when someone wants to bring in hate, I say, hey, I promise Jesus, God, and Holy Spirit, you're making me do something that would be against the promise I made. That's how my heart feels. And I remember there's someone out there who's like trying to get me to. I'm like, I already had my hate box. There were only 2 people in it. I told God about it, and he's like, "It's okay." No, he didn't say he would listen. And I said, "I'll remove the hate box at some point." That's how it works when you're like, that's such a strong word. So, a part about everyone has a different way of feeling. I feel sad for all the people who don't love themselves and humanity, but that's the part of why I can't make all people learn to love themselves and become themselves. It's a personal choice. The therapy is a personal choice, and then the personal growth and the spiritual growth is also a choice. Ones who are understanding the importance of a third attunement, repairing rupture and ventral energy. We are not our activated states. We break emotional reactivity because we don't need to project our activated states. We don't need to project our strong emotions. We're able to have fun with it and then continue to self-regulate, differentiate, and to continue bringing secure attachment figures out there for all who will learn. And that's also why our future will be looking very, very bright. But yeah, Charlie ends up buying his nephew all these toys because his brother explained to him, you punish, you teach. And so as he's buying all these toys, his nephew like, "Oh, wow, thanks, Uncle Charlie." Is like, "Yeah, no, I'm getting them so that I can take them away and punish you for all this stuff that he had done." But it was funny to, watch. And at the end of the day, again, for grown men and women, we don't do "let me punish you," FYI. My facade friend and I, we're friends, and all these other lovely people out there, it's not "let me remind you of every time you will behave in ways that are annoying." It's more of we understand that that's how they're going to be. So at the end of the day, we all have quirks. That's how I also like to bring it. But thanks for stopping by, and have a good one.